Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the CR Sports Podcast. Garrett, as we end Selection Sunday here on March 16th, we're about to head into St. Patrick's Day. It's the start of a great week for college basketball. We got the brackets set. We saw Champ Week all week and Championship weekend. And I know as sports fans, me and you and everyone else out there, it's just the best time to be alive, and it's everything you can ask for.
Yeah, as a college basketball fan, what better feeling is there than sitting down on a 6 o'clock selection Sunday, turning the TV on to CBS and just hearing that crew announce the 68 teams that are going to be in the field. The first four will get it cracking Tuesday and Wednesday, and then one of the best days to be a sports fan is that Thursday and then that Friday where you just have 16 games, little pods of four games, four different pods. Just so you can sit on your couch from noon to 1 a.m. just watching college basketball games, high level games between teams that are fighting for their season. So another selection Sunday uh, has almost passed. We still have about 45 minutes left before it's officially St. Patrick's Day, but definitely a lot to break down in the bracket and a lot of unexpected things, at least from what I was thinking. I thought, the committee made some maybe interesting, fishy decisions, especially revolving UNC, but we can get to that once we really dive into the bracket.
The only thing better than sitting down at 6 o'clock and tuning into Selection Sunday is tuning into the CR Sports Podcast and our coverage of it. We promise that we're going to be better than we were last year. Hey, last year was a lot of unexpected things. I guess not that unexpected because the team that won it the year before, Connecticut, did repeat as champs, but they're going to have a much tougher time this year. They are an 8 seed in this bracket, but the number one overall team this year is Auburn, and they are in the South region with a 20-5 record, and they're starting it off over there, Garrett.
Yeah, and we can also promise you some more consistent uploads from the
Yeah.
CR Sports Podcast. I know first semester in college, we were just getting our feet under us, getting it running, but now we're going to be giving you guys weekly episodes, and we're really going to be focused on that, especially as March goes on and we cover March Madness and we get to the NBA playoffs. Michael, I know your Knicks. Last night, our team squared off, but your Knicks solidly in the third seed, and my Warriors on a 7 game win streak. So we'll
Yeah.
definitely be more into the NBA and even throughout the summer in the MLB as well. But the next couple weeks, it's all about college basketball. It's all about March Madness. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, I think the things that we got to talk about from our inconsistent uploads. Like, I'm glad you mentioned it, Garrett, because we've you've been accustomed, if you've watched us, listened to us, however you've tuned in, that we've given you coverage throughout, but we've been a little bit inconsistent. We've done kind of more monthly uploads, or if that. But but not to mention, you had a great start to your basketball career at Connecticut College, and a nice freshman season. And y- as you said, getting your feet under college, scheduling, all that. It's just it's winding down though, as we're gonna end early May, so there'll be a lot more stuff, and I'm looking forward to it and excited.
Yeah, look for us both to be back in person too, in
Yeah,
just a couple short months. So that'll be exciting. But we'll kick things off. The first four taking place in Dayton every year. We'll start with 2 games on Tuesday and then 2 games on Wednesday. The 2 games on Tuesday, the early one will be Alabama State, St. Francis U, and then Texas or it's actually San Diego State, North Carolina will be the later one that day. And Michael, when you look at these 2 games, obviously Alabama State, St. Francis, a couple great stories. Couple fun facts. St. Francis is actually under 500, the only team in the field that's under 500. One of the only few teams to ever do that. And Alabama State actually played in a tournament at Sun and they this at Connecticut College. I don't
Oh,
know if you
really?
knew that or not. And me and one of my teammates went to go watch their practice. So it's pretty cool to say that we were able to watch the practice of an NCAA tournament team. But then, the bigger storyline here is the fact that, Bubba, our boy, the committee chair of the NCAA March Madness Selection Committee, is the athletic director at North Carolina. And conveniently, they were the last team in selected. So definitely some controversy there.
Yeah, Garrett, I think you could see that I'm sharing the bracket right here on the screen just for our viewers to make it a little bit better to watch as we go through. But I'm gonna be honest with you. The North Carolina thing, that's what's jumping out at me. I think we should address that first because that's on the mind of everybody, right? Um, it doesn't make sense to me how the committee is picking teams to be in and out of the bracket so far. It just it's confusing. That's the thing that sticks out in this bracket, obviously, with Carolina getting in over teams like West Virginia, over a team like Indiana. If we're gonna look, this is what the committee has said in past years. We look at quad one wins and how you do in your quad games, and they put emphasis on that. That was something that you've heard for years now. If you followed for college basketball and March Madness, where it matters how you do in your quad one wins, matters how you do like in quad two, and like that. But they emphasize the quad one wins. North Carolina has one of them. I understand that their record is better than both West Virginia and Indiana, but in the past years, the committee has picked teams with worse records who have done better against better teams than North Carolina has. I think that this is a complete mistake by the committee. It seems unfair. It doesn't make sense to me that there's going to be an emphasis now on the overall whatever you want to call it sample size and oh well they were undefeated in quad two. Okay, that's a bonus, but in past years you rank it one as the highest as quad one. If you have only one win, that's a huge negative for you. And you know North Carolina's it's a down year for them. And I think that the committee's kind of just forcing a big name here to be in the dance, and it's not fair to the other teams that have come up against really good teams this year and played well.
Yeah, teams like Boise State, Indiana, West Virginia thought they were going to be safely in, but they were probably the biggest snub in the tournament. I think what, helped North Carolina get in is they're ranked 33rd in the net. And they have the 22nd best offensive efficiency rating and the 53rd best defensive efficiency rating. So those numbers, if you look at those alone, you think that's a tournament team. So I think that's what really stands out as a positive in their case. But I think they're 1-12 now in quad one games, 1-13, whatever it is exactly. And I think, you know, a lot of people are going to look at that comeback they had against Duke. If North Carolina trailed by as many as 24, if they lose that game by, 25 points, I don't think they're in this bracket. But I think because of that comeback, Jalen Withers making the lane violation, or else Van Allen Lubin's free throw would have tied it. So North Carolina only losing that game by 3 and having a big comeback and making that a game, I think is ultimately what saved them and is the reason they're going to have a chance to make the field of 64 Tuesday night in Dayton.
Yeah, it's just I think you're right. I think that they're a team that could pull off an upset in here. They could beat Ole Miss. Like they're not awful, but it's just it's your body of work going into the tournament, and that's what I really have a problem with. And you know, I just think I think we haven't gotten a real clear and true answer by the committee yet either on the exact reason of why they picked North Carolina. I know that they can say, well, the body of work, we looked at it and then we said North Carolina's the last team in. But why did you pick them over teams like West Virginia? What is the exact reason? And I think they're lacking on that right now because I don't really think they have one.
Yeah, and I think it's, I don't think March Madness struggles in terms of viewership, but obviously putting a big, a popular fan base, a historic franchise or college like North Carolina is in the tournament is going to, bring a little more energy. And I sort of think of Florida State a couple of years ago in the college football playoff in college football when they were undefeated. I know it was a little different because, Jordan Travis got hurt, but it felt like, the committee knew who the better team was. It wasn't Florida State. But you look at Florida State's resume and it feels like they earned it more. And I feel like there's teams who have earned it more than North Carolina. But Michael, me and you both know North Carolina is a dangerous team that you don't want to play.
I agree. Yeah.
Was their resume worthy of them making it? Probably not, but they're definitely a team that you don't want to see. And they have a lot of talent on their roster. So from that aspect, it justifies it a little bit, but I still think they should have been one of the first couple teams out in favor of a different team.
Well, Gary, you want to go through and, pick your first round picks here?
Yeah, we can give a little analysis. I don't think the first game needs much analysis.
I agree with that. I mean, I don't think we're going to see anything super crazy like we did in years past with a 116 upset, but you never know. It's been happening more and more.
Yeah,
But
and I think the bigger discussion point there is Auburn hanging on to the number one overall seed despite
that is a
cooling
great point.
off, cooling off in the last couple weeks. I thought it should have been Duke for sure, possibly even Florida, but they stuck with Auburn, and I think that highlights the body of work they had to go through in the SEC. I think they might have just worn down a little. This time off the 6 or 7 days they'll have off, I think is gonna uh prove worthy, and I think Auburn's gonna have no trouble dealing with whoever comes out of that first four game.
Yeah. This is a really interesting matchup. I think this is another mistake that the committee made in this region, in the South region. I don't think Louisville or Creighton should be an 8 or a 9 seed. I think they should be higher. They've made it to Creighton made it to the Big East championship. Louisville made it to the ACC championship. These are two teams with really good records too. 27-7. Louisville with almost 30 wins this year. To draw an 8 seed and then in the second round have to play the number one overall team. I just think that's bad seeding and a bad job by the committee. Tough placement for Louisville and Creighton. Um, I think Louisville's going to win this game. I've really liked what I saw from them in the ACC tournament, and Chucky Hepburn has just been unbelievable. But I could also see a world where Creighton gets it done because they've been hot too, getting to the Big East championship. I just think that these two teams, I think one of them's going to go. Well, one of them is going to go home, and I don't really think it's fair with the drawing and the seating of the committee just to put them right here. I feel like they earned a higher spot than some other teams that are higher up than them.
Yeah, Michael, if you told me that the ACC runner-up and the Big East runner-up were going to go head-to-head in the NCAA tournament, I would think Elite Eight, at least Sweet 16.
Yeah.
But round of 64, I would not have predicted. And this is going to be, a really good clash in the first round. And the 8-9 matchups are always some of the tougher to predict. But I think this really is a result of the SEC bias, getting 14 out
Yep.
of 16 teams in. All those teams that they had to fit in, there was a lot of teams that were ranked in that 5, 6, 7 range that happened to be SEC teams. So, Louisville, despite, losing to Duke, they had a 5 point lead at halftime in the ACC championship game. They suffered. And, Creighton, who played St. John's pretty close. I know St. John's pulled away late, but they also suffered. And so now both of these teams are going to have to face off in the first round. And, you know, winner, chicken dinner, you draw Auburn, who's probably pretty angry, the number one overall seed with the way they've been playing lately. So I don't see either of them making out of this 4 team pod. I think Auburn to the Sweet 16 is a pretty safe call, but definitely not what I was expecting out of the 8-9 game in the Lexington region.
If you had to pick, where would you go? I do agree with you. I think Auburn beats either team.
I'm leaning Louisville. I have them
That's what
picked
I've been.
in my
Yeah.
bracket. And as the one advantage you could say, I think Louisville should be a 6 seed, but the one advantage they have is this game's in Lexington, which is right in their backyard. It's about an hour away, so their fans are going to be able to travel well, which is, I think, an advantage that they definitely have over Creighton and even over Auburn.
Yeah, that is another interesting thing with I'm not sure, Garrett. I feel like I feel like in past years this hasn't been as clear to me. But since we're in the South, is it random where the games are? I thought that used to be like more of a regional thing. Like Denver and Lexington and
Yeah,
Milwaukee and Cleveland. I just feel like it's super random.
yeah, they try to have it more in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. You see the South Regional for those is in Atlanta.
Right.
But to be honest, I don't want to keep putting the blame on the SEC, but because there's 14 teams in, they try to not schedule SEC teams playing against each other. So that just resulted in some weird matchups where they had to move teams into spots where maybe they weren't deserving because you can't have two SEC teams facing off in the first round.
And I think the committee also said they didn't want more than four teams in a specific region
Yeah,
of the bracket. It's crazy that that's even a problem, but
right.
it's a testament to how tough the SEC was this year.
Yeah.
I think and very interesting game you got here with hold on, the very interesting game I'm trying new things out on this computer with the screen sharing, but I think the Michigan UC San Diego game is that's super interesting to me. I watched Michigan today in the Big Ten championship, and they won the Big Ten, but they look like they just looked so sloppy in the first half. And I know we talked about this, Garrett, before we got on this podcast, but that can be nerves sometimes that you have in big games. And Wisconsin's also been a really hot and good team. So these teams that look sloppy and somehow win their conference and don't play a good game, they can come in March Madness and then straighten things out. I think this UC San Diego team is also underrated. I think they're very good, and they have 30 wins this year, and they could be a team that you look at as a double-digit upset.
Yeah, before I say anything else, if any one of these 4 teams made it to the Sweet 16, I wouldn't be overly shocked. I'm
Mm.
just gonna put that out there. I think this is a really unique little pot of 4 teams. Michigan, that was their third game in 3 days. I wasn't shocked that they looked a little sloppy. It was a little more low scoring. UC San Diego, first season eligible to be in the NCAA tournament in just their fifth season transferring to D1. They're riding the nation's longest winning streak of 15 games. And so they're scorching hot. They have a top 10 finalist for Defensive Player of the Year in the whole country. Um, and then Texas A&M and M and Yale. Yale upset an SEC team last year in the same scenario in the first round. It was actually Auburn, who we just talked about. But Texas A&M leads the nation in offensive rebound. I think their aggressiveness and just ability to pursue the glass is a little too much. Michigan, UC San Diego sort of felt like a toss-up to me, but I ended up going with Michigan and Texas A&M in these matchups. But it wouldn't surprise me if we saw upsets in one or both of these.
Yeah, I'm much more confident with the Texas A&M pick, the 4 over 13, than Michigan over UC San Diego. Although at the same time, I think I'm being overly critical on the past what I've seen with the Big Ten. It's been a conference that really hasn't performed in March, and that's a problem that you have for people counting on your conference, counting on teams that literally won the conference like Michigan. It just they haven't performed the Big Ten like other conferences have, so I'm a little cautious with picking them, but I think you said it right, Garrett. This is a very interesting pocket that you got, and it usually is when you have 5-12 and 4-13.
Yeah, and if there is a Big Ten that's seen tournament success recently, I think it has been Michigan.
Right. So we'll pick the Wolverines to advance here. I mean, we're not going to be able to go through this whole bracket, but we're gonna give you an idea of what we're thinking in the first round. We'll try to get another episode out there, especially like afterwards, and then we'll post our actual brackets on our Instagram page, something like that, and try to do a lot better than we did last year. But then, we'll give further analysis with more episodes as the rounds advance throughout here. So I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, so we can move on to the next little mini pod area there. And um, Ole Miss, one of those SEC teams where it's sort of hard to grade them just because they played in the SEC and every game was a dogfight. Sean Padula hitting that buzzer beater to send him past Arkansas in the second round of the SEC tournament. They're going off against the winner of San Diego, North Carolina. I think we both have North Carolina winning that one. And in my bracket, I think I'm picking North Carolina to win another one here. I think they've been hot recently, and I think that carries them past Ole Miss.
Yeah, I
And
agree
then
with you.
Iowa State and Lipscomb. Iowa State's been, sort of underwhelming recently. I just don't think Lipscomb quite has the firepower. I don't love this Iowa State team, but I think they got a pretty good draw here.
I'm not exactly sure on the name of their player, but I know they're experiencing some injuries.
I think
Garrett.
John Gilbert, I believe, is out for the season. Out
Yeah,
for the
and it just came out after the committee already talked.
Yeah.
So that does muddy things up a little bit here. But this is an interesting game you got down here. Marquette versus New Mexico. Even though Marquette, look, they face, they face a tough St. John's team in the Big East tournament. I've been really happy with how I've watched Marquette this year. 23-10. It's not the craziest record ever, but I trust Shaka Smart. I do. I know, they've disappointed before, but I think this team will at least get one win here in the NCAA tournament, but Michigan State would be a tough draw after that.
Yeah, and I agree with you here. I think Donovan Dent in New Mexico, it's been a really good season for them. Richard Pitino, the son of Rick Pitino, was actually Mountain West Coach of the Year. I just think Marquette, playing in those big time games, playing recently in MSG against St. John's, I think it's just enough. But these 7-10 games, just like the 8-9 and even the 6-11, can be just so hard to pick at times.
Yeah, so we both are agreeing with Michigan State after that. This is where, it gets a little interesting, yeah, obviously in the second round, Garrett. But do you wanna move on to another region, or you wanna just then pick this one through?
Yeah, we could stick in this region and then move on to the next.
All right, Michigan A&M. I think that's it's a tough game. These SEC schools that have like they all have very similar records, besides like the top ones. But 22-10, A&M 4 seed. They've looked good. They've played the toughest teams in the country. They've played so many tournament teams, and I guess Michigan is hot. They're coming in, winning the Big Ten, and it's a testament of who has the stronger conference play. And for me, that I'm taking the SEC way more seriously. They've broke the record for the amount of teams in in March Madness ever with what 14. So this is something that we've never seen before. I think the last time we saw something like this was 2011 with the Big East, and there was 11 teams, I want to say, around that.
Yeah,
And
11 was the previous record.
yeah, so that was shattered pretty much. And this is a Big Ten conference that I just can't trust. They've busted my bracket too many times. I got A&M.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with A&M as well. I think Michigan, the advantage they have over a lot of these teams, and I think they're gonna assert over UC San Diego is that two big man punch of Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf. And I just think Texas A&M has the bodies to throw at Michigan's big guys. And I know Texas A&M's not going to get beat up on the glass. They never do. And so I like this matchup for Texas A&M. I'm taking the Aggies.
And not to mention Garrett, what I saw from Golden the past in the especially the game today in the championship game, I know he had some big times there he came up on defense, but besides that, I was not super impressed with his play so far. Um, and I think that that can be abused in a game like this.
Yeah, I want to be surprised if that's the case.
UNC Iowa State. Now, there's some people that I mean, I'm one of them. I don't think UNC should be in it, but at the same time, with Iowa State losing one of their stars, and North Carolina is a dangerous team that you don't want to play. They've played a lot of good teams. I know they only have that one quad one win. I could see another upset here, but at the same time, um, my gut tells me that, like, just the ball don't lie, right? And they're not supposed to be in, and their run. It would be ridiculous if they did go on a run, but at the same time, you could also play devil's advocate and say, well, if you give them some rope, they'll take advantage of it. But going with my gut, I got Iowa State over UNC, but I think it'd be a close one.
Yeah, I almost feel like I'm supposed to pick UNC in this matchup just because,
Yeah.
Iowa State has Keyshawn Gilbert out and UNC would already have won 2 games prior in the week. I mean, Iowa State would be a little more fresh, but I think, at this point in the season, UNC would sort of be on a roll. And I don't know, there's just something telling me that this is March Madness and sometimes you can't overanalyze it. So I just feel like Iowa State's gonna do just enough, not only in the first round, but in the second round again. And I think they're gonna be playing in the second weekend.
All right, so I'm with you on that. Garrett, this is bad. We were like in lockstep last year too, and we know how
Well,
that turned out.
we'll have our differences for sure.
Yeah, well, it'll be coming up. Um, and then Marquette, Michigan State. I want to pick Marquette so bad. I really do. I really do. I'm not a Tom Izzo fan. I'm just not. I'm not a Big Ten basketball fan, clearly. I love the Big East. I want to pick Marquette, but this Michigan State team I think is just better than them. I think that's the difference. And my heart tells me Marquette, but
Yeah, they call it Izzo's month, so give me
yeah,
Michigan State as well.
he's
I
done so well in the tournament.
I think they win this game pretty easily.
Well, all right, so we got they're a little different there, but I'm with you on that. And then A&M and Auburn. Auburn struggled as of late. That's the one thing. I don't know where are you thinking in this game?
I think Auburn's struggles continued. Texas A&M already beat them once in the regular season. I'm
With
giving
you.
a nod to them again. I love senior leadership, and that's what they have in Wade Taylor, one of the best shot makers, most difficult, heavily contested shot makers in this tournament. Anderson Garcia, they got plenty of guys that can do it, and they're going to swarm the glass. I think this game will be called a little bit tighter as they normally are in the tournament than an SEC regular season or tournament game. But give me the Aggies moving on to the Elite Eight.
I love it. And then I think down here, I think Iowa State's injuries catch up to him, honestly. And I think you got Michigan State fighting for a Final Four spot. This is what Izzo does, even though I'm not a huge fan. But yeah, I think that this is Michigan State all the way.
Yeah, and I think Michigan State not only gets it done against Iowa State, I think they just, you know, I think they get Texas A&M in a little bit of foul trouble. And I think Jackson Kohler is able to hold up down low, and it's not the best Michigan State team we've ever seen, but I think they have a lot of different bodies they can throw at you, and for that reason, I think their depth is going to prevail, and they're going to be playing uh in the Final Four in San Antonio.
All right, so right there, there we go. We got the South region for you. I'm gonna clear it down because everything is gonna slide a little bit, and we're gonna go to. Hold on.
For the most loaded region in
Yep.
the entire bracket, which is the West region.
Let's
Uh,
talk about the Florida Gators. I love.
well, I think this is the best. Either them or Duke is the best 1 seed. And I think they put the best 2 seed in this region as well. which could make for one heck of an Elite Eight matchup. But let's see how we would get there first.
Yeah, so obviously we got Florida. I think they're the best team in this tournament. That's just I really think they are, but I think they got a really tough draw, like you mentioned, Garrett, with St. John's at the bottom as a two seed. I've loved Rick Pitino all year, coach of the year by far, in my opinion. What he's done in his second year at St. John's, every place he goes turns into gold. He's like Rumpelstiltskin, and I'm a huge Rick Pitino fan. I think he should be talked about, mentioned, and just totally in the conversation for one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time because of the amount of places that he has gone and the amount of places that have had success with him. It's a testament of how good of a coach he really is. So I think Florida's got a tough draw if that's going to be the Elite Eight matchup. We'll see, like you said, as we go through it here. But you got the two-time back-to-back champs and Dan Hurley in Connecticut as the eight seed going up against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I like UConn in this one. Oklahoma, one of those 14 SEC teams that made it in. I just think after losing to Creighton in the Big East semifinal, Hurley's going to have them riled up as he always does, and
He's a great coach.
wins this one.
Yeah, when you win back-to-back national championships, you're doing obviously something super right. I don't think Dan Hurley is going to get stopped in the first round, even though this Connecticut team is definitely down from especially what we've seen from them the past 2 years. But I'm with you on that. And Connecticut in the first round. Memphis they're a scary team. They're an athletic team, but Colorado State is also a tough matchup for them. I've heard people saying, especially Clark Kellogg, saying that this is a game to highlight.
Yeah, I think it is a game to highlight too. I think it's, I like to fill out plenty of brackets. I think it's one of those where I'm going to try to pick 50-50 because I don't really know who's going to win. I think Nick Clifford, though, in Colorado State have just been playing some great ball. They just won 3 games in a row over 3 really good teams to book their spot in the tournament because without winning the Mountain West, I don't think they get in. So that automatic bid by winning the Mountain West, again, just great wins along the way. I think they beat Memphis too. I just don't think Memphis has been tested as much as other teams playing in the American. I know they look solid, but we don't know the status of Tyrese Hunter. He was out in the American Championship game today, and Nick Clifford's a pro. They're very well coached. I think this team has enough to get past Memphis.
I don't know as much about as you do, Garrett, on these two teams, but my guts tell me Memphis. I don't know. I just like the athleticism that they have on the floor. But we'll put your pick of Colorado State on there. So there's a disagreement we got. We almost need one. I'm not manufacturing everything, but everybody. But this is one I gotta pick it. Maryland has been a team that has been very good all year. Queen has been phenomenal for them. But you know what I saw? I saw on my phone. I saw what Grand Canyon's been doing. I don't know the name of the player, but I know there's one of them. He's praying before the game as he goes out there, as they call his name, and his teammates praying with him. I feel like there's something there that's a little bit of the March Madness juice that you get. I think there's a Cinderella run, and I think there's a good stories throughout all these games, and you can find them anywhere, and you could argue for a lot of different teams. But I think it's easy to root for Grand Canyon, and I think this is something that, will continue for Maryland. Another tough, hard-fought, close loss that in heartbreaking fashion. You could say, well, they're right there. They're playing really close and they're playing good. You could also look at the other side of that and say, well, they don't know how to win close games. They lose close games. That was Syracuse basketball story. Down the stretch of our season that I was tuned into. So that's a huge problem for a team to have. And I think that I think he got Grand Canyon with a little bit of an upset.
Yeah, Michael, coming into the tournament, this is a team last year in Grand Canyon that I watched, Tyne Grant Foster, their best player, coming back. I thought he was going to hit the portal. I was a little surprised he didn't. Winning the WAC yet again, Grand Canyon beating a very good Utah Valley team. I was really interested to see where they landed today during Selection Sunday, and it was a team I thought I was going to pick as an upset. Being in March, having that experience, having an experienced player like Tyne Grant Foster, the Antelopes, it's a great mascot. I want to root for them, and I might be rooting for them. But as soon as I saw they drew Maryland, I was like, that's not what I wanted to see them, who I wanted to see them draw. I got Maryland in this one. I think Maryland's playing some really good ball. And Maryland, I think, the couple extra days of rest, maybe in between games, especially before this first round game, is really in their benefit because they have the highest scoring starting five in all of college basketball. Their weakness is their depth. They don't have a ton of depth, but when they're able to rest up and energy, everybody's high energy. You mentioned Derek Queen, how special he's been this year as a
Yep.
freshman. I like Maryland pretty easily in this one.
Well, there we go. We got you got the upset with Colorado State. I got it with Grand Canyon. I do think that the that Maryland is a really solid team, and that could bode well for them in March. But at the same time, Grand Canyon I feel like is one of those teams that could just get it done. Another marquee matchup that you got to be looking at is most definitely Drake and Missouri. This is going to be a great game. Drake was one of those teams that people have been talking about for years now. It feels like they got a lot of D2 guys, and they came up, and it's just kind of a special story. But they're 30-3, and they're a for real team. I think they're an experienced team. I think another year under with March Madness under their belt from the previous year, I think it bodes well for them. And I got Drake beating Missouri, and I think this is the bracket of upsets right here.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I really told you I had a good idea of who's going to win this game. I really don't. Bennett Sturts and Drake, they're really good. They're sort of they play similar to Houston in the way they just get after it on defense. Shout out Ryan Hammer. I was watching one of his videos, the little mid-major, spotlight, and in the way that Drake plays. And I think Missouri, again, just one of those, sort of middle of the pack SEC teams where it's hard to tell exactly where they stand. They've been so good. I believe they're undefeated, if not just one loss at home this year. But in the NCAA tournament, there's no home games. So this is one of those games where I just expect chaos to happen. I really couldn't tell you, um, who's gonna win, but I'll tell you who I think is gonna win because, I'm filling out a bracket. I have to pick someone, and I'm just gonna lean Drake because I'm gonna lean into the madness.
Let's go. I love it. Then you got Texas Tech and UNCW. I'll be also honest, I don't know anything about UNCW, and I think Texas Tech has been a good team. That's what I
Yeah,
do.
I can tell you that it's UNC Wilmington. I
Yeah,
don't. This is one of those, smaller teams I'm not as familiar with. Coming out of the Colonial, where they beat a good Charleston team in the semifinal. I'm blanking on who they beat in the final, but I think Texas Tech controls this game and wins handily.
all right, Kansas, Arkansas. This is so interesting. Calipari versus Self in the first round, and you got a great coaching matchup down here with the possibility of Patino and Calipari in the second round. Even if it's Patino and Bill Self, it's just everything you look for. But when you look at this game specifically, I haven't been a huge Kansas fan all year. I think they faded. They started off the year so high in the seeding. I think that weren't they one time the number one team in the country?
Preseason they were.
Yeah, and so they were disappointing. 21-12, not a terrible year, 7th seed for them. Um, Arkansas first year under John Calipari. It's nothing outstanding, but it's a good year. That's what he does. They were in the SEC, so you got to give him credit with that. Uh, I think Calipari can rally the troops, get him going. Similar to what we saw when he got him to go into Kentucky. I think the way that he can coach this game. I think it's going to be setting up a battle of the Italians in the second round and I think I got Arkansas over Kansas in this one, but a tough one to pick.
Yeah, my best advice here would be flip a coin if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. I'm gonna lean Kansas because I think Bill Self has had more success, especially recently, than John Calipari has. His Kentucky teams have been, getting upset a
That
lot
is
recently.
true.
I know this is a different school in Arkansas, and to be frank, there's a lot of talent in this game. These are two teams who I think severely underachieved, in my opinion. Arkansas, the second half of the year, has been playing much better. Kansas, second half of the year has been playing much worse. They started off a lot better. You mentioned, they were ranked preseason number one. They have the tools on this team. I think they're able to put it together enough to get past Arkansas. And I like what you're doing. Omaha, I actually watched the Summit League title game where they defeated St. Thomas, who was ineligible to go to March Madness. So Omaha was
Dedication.
oh, either way. And Omaha, I was really impressed by them. I didn't think this was just a run-of-the-mill small major team, but as soon as I saw that they were facing St. John's in the first round, I was like, "Yep, it's been a nice year, Omaha, but I'm going St. John's."
Let's quickly go through it now, Garrett at the top. Florida, UConn. I think this is the end for the Huskies. I think this Florida team, and I don't think I know they are the hottest team in all of college basketball. What they did in the SEC tournament was phenomenal. They've looked so good. They can play defense. They can shoot the three. They can drive inside, get points in the paint. they'll cause turnovers, they'll cause chaos, and they're just a team that's so tough. And I think Dan Hurley's a great coach. I think he's got to regroup next year and get a better team out there for Connecticut. I got Florida in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I got Florida as well, but I don't think this is the matchup Florida wanted in the second round.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's anything run of the mill.
So I have Maryland over Colorado State here. I think the Terps keep it going. I think they're able to get, enough offense and slow down Nate Clifford and the rest of the Colorado State Rams. For you, I think this is Memphis and Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I'd have Memphis. Actually, I'll add that to to this then. Um, what I had here, but we'll just put Maryland on here as we gotta move quick, but it's fine.
Yeah, and then Drake, Texas Tech. I think Drake plays them really close, but I think JT Toppin and is just enough, and I think it pushes Texas Tech over the edge.
I'm with you too, Garrett. I like that pick as well. And then, St. John's, I got Arkansas, you got Kansas. I think we might have the same result either way, but I just love the Johnnies. I'm all Johnnies this March. They're the team I'm rolling with, they're the team I'm rooting for. You're gonna see throughout my bracket that I got the Johnnies. I got them up there with the best of them. So I got St. John's. What do you think?
Yeah, book the Johnnies forward another one. I think Kansas's underwhelming season comes to an end here.
And then up at the top, Florida, Maryland, or for me, it'd be Florida, Memphis. Either way, we both got the Gators, I think, going on to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I wanted to pick Maryland a Cinderella run, maybe to the Final Four, even Elite Eight, but Florida looks like the best team in the country, at least the way they just ran through the SEC tournament.
They might look like the best team in the country, Garrett, to you, but I think the Johnnies down below looking like the best team in the country. I love St. John's. I love what Patino has done. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, just repeating kind of what I've said in a different way. But the way that they play defense and the amount of turnovers that they cause, they're not a three-point shooting team. That comes after that. They play great defense. They get in the paint. Kadari Richmond is an excellent point guard. I miss him at Syracuse every single day. I think the Johnnies just have a really well-built team because they're not reliant on the three-pointer. So if it doesn't fall, it's okay, and they don't rely on that. And they're gonna go down there. And Zibioke, I can't say his last name. How say it for me, Garrett?
I think it's Zuby Oliafor or
Geofor, shoot, we're messing it up. But their center that the St. John's has, we'll get it right for the next episode, has just been unbelievable. The combination with the 1 and the 5 that they have with Richmond and him is something that's so hard for teams to defend. And the thing that you got to notice about St. John's is that they don't let you have open, easy shots. They play such stellar defense, and I think that's why I got them in the Elite Eight.
yeah, they grind teams out. They're similar to Houston and Tennessee. I just think they're a little more dynamic and I think they're relying on their defense and even like you mentioned, they have plenty of games where they don't shoot it well and they still get in the 70s and 80s. Unlike Houston and Tennessee, I think their offense is just more dynamic. RJ Lewis and Kadari Richmond can sort of get to the cup at will. I do have Florida knocking them out. I think Florida just a little too much offensive firepower. I think you have the Johnnies here.
I got the Johnnies. Um, because we don't have Zoom Premium, we're running out of time here. But we'll make a second episode. We'll attach it to this one, or we'll do two different uploads, and we'll have you for the region, so you guys can specifically tune in to whatever. But this is how our brackets are looking after the end of two regions. We go with in-depth coverage here on the CR Sports Podcast. So I'm excited for it, Garrett, and we'll have more episodes for you guys later.
Yeah, looking forward to the next episode for the next couple of regions in the Final Four.
Most definitely. Well, thanks. Stay tuned, everybody. Much more to come.